afternoon, everybody. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. Aiden O'Connell will be the Raiders' starting quarterback Sunday in Las Vegas. This was just announced by that team out there. And now I have no idea who Aiden O'Connell is either. But I think I do know what the Steelers need to start doing a lot more of to make sure that the other team's quarterback, whether it's Aiden O'Connell or someone who's really good like Dak Prescott, is at the other end. And that's this: either minimize or remove Beanie Bishop. I am not a big fan of singular blame, and I'm not going to pretend that Bishop is the reason that the Steelers defense has had a couple of rough weeks between what the Colts did to them and then what the Cowboys did to them. But Bishop's getting picked on. And this shouldn't surprise anybody who goes back to training camp. If you're one of those people who follows the Steelers really, really closely, and you'll recall that every time someone would ask Mike Tomlin about Bishop or the nickel position in general, his response was something almost kind of snarly, like, no, he's not ready. He's not where he needs to be, meaning Bishop. And I remember a couple of times when I'd hear Tomlin say that, I'd think, he's doing that Mike Hilton thing to him. You remember that whenever he would deliberately denigrate Hilton? It was kind of like a gag they had, a running gag between the two of them. You're undrafted, you're too small, you're this and that. And Hilton was a great sport about it. He'd make a play on the field in Latrobe and he'd yell over to Tomlin, too small, too small. It was really funny stuff. Well, Hilton could make plays. Bishop can't. And when you see all of these underneath passes and you're yelling about the secondary or whatever, you're yelling about the safeties, it's usually Beanie. When you see the winning touchdown that the Cowboys got on 4th and 4, and you see that Deshaun Elliott, who might be the Steelers' most consistent defensive performer to date, not named TJ Watt, when you see Deshaun over there, you go, oh man, Deshaun should have, that might have been Beanie's guy. They've all been forced to do different things in the secondary because of Beanie. When you hear about communication, this was Dante Jackson today when he was asked about communication, and listen to the wording carefully that he offers.
Just focus and execution, man. Sometimes when stuff get to moving a little fast out there, sometimes you have guys thinking something and other guys thinking something else. It's just something that we're itching to change. It's not something that we feel is killing us right now. But definitely, just like I said, man, stuff get to moving. Other guys get to thinking different things. That's what just the whole detailing and the whole just coming together and figuring out how we want to do things and when are we going to do things, stuff like that. But sometimes I just think a lot of just the bullets flying, guys get away from themselves. I know I do it sometimes. That's kind of what it is for real.
Okay, they're all doing that. When I was talking to these guys earlier in the week, it was communication this, communication that. Well, what are we actually talking about when we say that? I don't know how much of this is obvious on television because I don't know what the cameras show you and don't show you. The press box, I could see Beanie turning around, looking at Minka all the time, Minka Fitzpatrick, and saying, like, where am I going? What am I doing? And he'd look over to his left. What about this? And they'd point like that. And Minka or someone else would point. They were trying to communicate with him. They were trying to communicate with Beanie where to go. So they get thrown out of whack. The inside linebackers get thrown into coverage. The other team knows that. The other team knows, let's say, for example, Patrick Queen isn't necessarily the world's greatest run stopper. He's a coverage guy. Peyton Wilson, mostly a coverage guy. And Landon Roberts does a little bit of everything. So they're making the inside linebackers look bad. Why? Because the whole defense gets softened up because they can't get good coverage out of Beanie. You following me here? That's why I'm saying it's not all on him, but there's a snowball effect to it. Beanie is not going to be a starting anything when Cam Sutton is allowed to come back from his suspension after week 8. He's not. He's going to be on the sideline. He's going to be a special teams guy. Heck, for all I know, he won't even get a hat. What I do know is that this defense needs an answer now, even if they're facing, oh God, what was this guy's name again? Aiden O'Connell in Las Vegas this weekend. Even if they're facing him, they need an answer for it. My suggestion, 3 safeties. Now, DeMonte Casey came down with an injury, so he won't be available. But you know who is? Terrell Edmonds. Terrell Edmonds is still here. You can say what you want about TE, and I know there's a lot of people who just say, TE is this or that because he was a first-round pick and disappointed them because he wasn't the next Troy Polamalu or whatever. TE does a couple of things for you, and he does them really well. But number one is stopping the run. You put him close to the line of scrimmage, he'll make the tackle. He, like his brother, or one of his brothers, will make the play at the line of scrimmage. He's not someone to shy away from contact. He actually goes looking for it. Let Deshaun Elliott, let Minkah Fitzpatrick do the standard safety stuff. Let TE get on the field. Now, I understand that's not nickel corner. It's not the same thing here, but I'd rather see that. I'd rather see that than I would Beanie giving you really, essentially, nothing.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joined now by Chris Halleck over on the south side. Just came out of the Steelers locker room. Chris, one of the things that it seems to me that nobody's discussing, inside or outside, is the defensive line and the inability to stop the run at the point of attack. My understanding beforehand was that this was supposed to turn back into a team's strength. First off, do you share that viewpoint? And second, if you do, what's going on?
There have definitely been some backsliding over the past couple of weeks. I don't think that's really arguable. I don't think it's necessarily the largest concern on this team either, mainly because, well, first off, Cam Hayward and TJ Watt are still playing very good run defense. Keanu Benton is still winning a pretty good percentage of the time. The one variable that's changed is Alex Highsmith's no longer on the field and Nick Herbig is. Now I'm not right. Now not even Nick Herbig's there. And so that does kind of make me wonder, how are they going to, now granted, Nick Herbig, very, very dynamic pass rusher already, but his run defense does not compare to what Alex Highsmith can do. Alex Highsmith is a seasoned run defender and very, very good at it. And if you have two guys who can set the edge, especially when teams are wanting to attack you on the edges, like the Colts did, like the Cowboys did at times, that's what they're going to try to. They're going to try to attack you where you're weakest, and I don't think it's an accident that that's happened. That being said, there needs to be improvement. Whether that's putting Isaiah Loudermilk on the edge, who's a good run defender in his own right, I don't know what the answer is there, but you have to be able to stop the run. If you can stop the run, make a team one-dimensional, then your defense can start making more plays, more splash plays, and that's the Steelers' MO right there.
Well, I would think it's going to be more than likely that you see Loudermilk setting the other edge there. Jeremiah Moon wasn't the answer. I don't want to be mean here. He came in ice cold. He'd been hurt and whatever else here. Now you throw him out there into the middle of an NFL game, and he was getting shoved so far past the quarterback that it probably took him 20 minutes to get back to the line of scrimmage. But Loudermilk has clearly made an impact. He and I talked about this over the weekend, where he knows he's getting trusted more. he knows he's going to get utilized more, whether that's in this capacity, some sort of emergency duty at the outside spot, or relieving guys, spelling guys on the inside. And he is, for anybody who's not aware of Loudermilk's history, going back to when he was drafted, he is a pure run stopper. He's actually tried to expand his repertoire over the years to be able to offer more. But at his base, he is a run stopper. He is who you'd want out there in that situation. Chris, I don't see how you could keep him off the field. Let me put it this way. Everyone's complaining about Patrick Queen and whatever else here. I just did a whole segment about Beanie Bishop and everything else. But the one thing that never seems to come up is that it's not just Jonathan Taylor who ran over you this time, okay? Jonathan Taylor is going to do that to a lot of people. This, what Dallas was able to do with Dowdle, that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, no, it's 100% true. It really was both sides of the ball that Dallas won in the trenches, and that it needed to be the other way around. This was a matchup made in heaven for what the Steelers wanted to do offensively and what the Steelers want to do defensively. The Cowboys metrics were good running the ball, but they weren't running the ball a lot because they fell behind so much in 2 games. And so they were forced to become one-dimensional because they were down by 1 billion points. Mm-hmm. That being said, they still weren't this juggernaut of a run offense either. This should have been a game that they played pretty well. And to be fair, it wasn't until the 4th quarter, but that's a time that the defense should be buckling down and being like, okay, yeah, you're not going to be able to extend drives by running the ball. That's exactly what Dallas did. So there's definitely some things to clean up, but I don't think it's a coincidence that as soon as Alex Highsmith goes out, the run defense just automatically starts regressing. And
the sit down Highsmith, play Herbig. Look, Herbig acquitted himself really well. So this isn't a knock on Nick. But
exactly.
This, if nothing else, this shines a whole new light for a lot of people, I think, on the importance of being able to seal the edge as an outside linebacker. Who is Aiden O'Connell? I don't mean to put you on the spot. That's what I'm doing here. I'm looking for trying to find this guy's background. He's 26 years old, started 10 games for the Raiders as a rookie last season. I don't remember any of that. Completed 62.1% of his passes. That's not so great. For 201.6 yards per game, that's okay. 12 touchdowns, 7 picks. The Raiders went 5-5 in his games, but they're sitting Minshew and they're going with this guy. Is that a good or a bad thing in your view?
I think it's a move made by the Raiders, who are desperate to try to do something. I honestly don't. I think it's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to just immediately bench Gardner Minshew. But Aiden O'Connell, this is good. It's actually probably the most homework I'm going to have to do on a quarterback all season whenever I do my next opponent piece, because Aiden O'Connell, you probably know about as much as I do when it comes to this guy. I would say it's a good thing the Steelers typically do well against young quarterbacks with a lot of inexperience. That happened with Bo Nix earlier this year, and Bo Nix did not look like a very good quarterback at all against this defense.
No.
Granted, it was a lot healthier of a defense.
Yeah.
They've taken a lot of hits, especially at edge rusher, so that needs to be taken into account here. But younger quarterback, not a lot of NFL experience. This should be a guy that they take advantage of in this defense.
If you lost your job to Gardner Minshew, who's probably the most recycled, fill-in quarterback in the NFL right now. I mean, I don't think there's too many teams beyond Pittsburgh that he hasn't played for yet. And you keep moving him around, and your decision as an organization is, Minshew, man, he's our guy. Yeah, we want Minshew. That's not a great endorsement of Aiden O'Connell. Let's put it that way. So this is going to be one where maybe the defense can get a little bit better, if not healthier. Maybe tee off. But then from there, you'd also have to blitz, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I understand the philosophy of wanting to get home with 4 guys so you can drop 7 in coverage, because if you can get to the quarterback with 4 guys, that's a good thing, because that's more guys in coverage, that's less holes, that's it just makes a lot of sense. But I do think they need to blitz a little bit more often. They need to throw some disguises out there, throw some exotic blitz packages out there. They're there. They're in the playbook. We saw them in Latrobe. Why aren't they using them? Maybe this is an opportunity to do it when you're down some of your better pass rushers. Maybe just bringing more guys is the way to do it, and just trust your guys like Minka, like Joey Porter Jr., like Dante Jackson to be able to hold up in coverage.
I would have no problem with that. Last thing before I let you go, since I brought this up in the opening segment, 3 safeties is another thing. And you just referenced it, that the Steelers were practicing in Latrobe. They did a ton of 3 safety work. And I know that DeMonte Casey's banged up right now. I also know that Terrell Edmonds is back in the fold. Why not do that? What safety stops the run better than TE?
Yeah, so here's the big difference here. So when the Steelers ran the 3 safety package a couple of years ago, when it was Terrell Edmonds, Minka Fitzpatrick, and Casey, Edmonds was the guy in the box most of the time. He was the guy who was going down closer to the line of scrimmage.
And now that's Deshaun.
Correct. So now you have Deshaun Elliott, and if you put Edmonds out there, you got 2 of those guys. So now if you're running cover 1 and Minka can be the one guy back, great. Now you can have 2 safeties down there if you want to run out of nickel. But I honestly think that Edmonds playing the dime backer role, which is what he's been doing, hasn't been that bad. So maybe he could be trusted a bit more in coverage. I don't know. With the way Beanie Bishop's playing, maybe it's not a bad idea.
That's what I'm saying. That's it, Alec. That's it. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Today's J1Q, that stands for Just One Question, comes from Gary Jones in Brentwood, California.
Hey, DK. My question is, would a Devontae Adams or Brian Ayuk have made a difference between a win and a loss over the last 2 games? If not, then why trade draft picks and or players for a receiver when the Steelers could draft one in the next draft and have them for 4 or 5 seasons?
Yeah, you start talking about next season, Gary, and the season after that, never mind 4 or 5 seasons. And all I'm picturing is that TJ Watt won't be there anymore. You do have to some extent, in the National Football League, look at windows. You do have to look at the opportunity that you have when you have a special talent. TJ's never won a playoff game. And I'm not saying that from the perspective of, go win one for number 90 or whatever. I'm saying it from the perspective of what a waste. You're talking about a guy who's been a consistent DPOY candidate for half a decade now, and you haven't won a playoff game with him. If you're not going to do that now, when are you going to do it? Who's going to come in and be another TJ? Just because Nick Herbig comes in and makes some occasional splash doesn't mean he's the next TJ, or that there's some easy way to find the next TJ, or for that matter, the next Cam Hayward or the best version of Minka Fitzpatrick. I've maintained all along, and I'm not about to go back on it now because of a couple of lousy games. This team is built for the now in that context alone. So I'm not into that. Let's just see what you can do with next season. I'm also not into price tags. You mentioned how expensive Brandon Ayuk, Devontae Adams, or a Tyreek Hill or whatever would be, and they would be. You'd be giving up a lot. The Steelers still have $10.5 million in cap space. So they're not exactly struggling in that regard. They still have draft picks, so that capital's available too. Here's another idea. How about a WR2? Why does the approach seem to be, at least from whatever it is that we know that Omar Khan is doing, all or nothing? Why does it have to be super solar mega demigod star or nobody at all? Listen, this is Van Jefferson. This is the Van Jefferson bar. He is your current WR2. He had more snaps offensively than any wide receiver did Sunday night against the Cowboys. I'm not making that up. More snaps than anybody, including George Pickens, which is a separate subject. Why not take the bar for WR2 and put it up here? Why do you have to have a WR1 if it's not available? You can't force it. Trades always require two parties. Go get yourself, I don't know, Hunter Renfrow or something. Go get yourself a wide receiver who's ideally some sort of significant upgrade on Jefferson. That seems like a reasonable ask, not to mention a more plausible scenario that you can address, right away, because that's when you need the help. It's right away. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much for checking out the new Double Shot.